If a couple fears separation, you shall appoint an arbiter from his family and an arbiter from her family. If they decided to reconcile, God will help them get together. God, omniscient, cognizant. Major commandments, 436. You shall worship God alone. Do not associate anything with him. You shall regard the parents, the relatives, the orphans, the poor, the related neighbour, the unrelated neighbour, those associated, the close associates, the travelling alien, and your servants. God does not like the arrogant show-offs. 437. The ones who are stingy exhort the people to be stingy and conceal what God has bestowed upon them from his bounties. We have prepared for them disbelievers a shameful retribution. 438. They give money to charity only to show off while disbelieving in God and the last day. If someone's companion is the devil, that is the worst companion. 439. Why do they not believe in God and the last day and give from God's provisions to them? God is fully aware of them. Divine justice here at 440. God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. On the contrary, he multiplies the rewards manifold for the righteous work and grants for him a great recompense. 441. Thus, when the day of judgment comes, we will call upon a witness from each community, and you, the messenger, will serve as a witness among these people. 442. On the day, those who disbelieved and disobeyed the messenger will wish they will wish that they were level with the ground, not a single utterance will they be able to hide from God. Subhanallah.
All right, thank you very much.
Praise God. Subhanallah.
Welcome.
Okay, does anyone have any comment regarding the verses that we just read?
Right here.
Peace be upon you guys, all of you.
Assalamu alaikum, Rafa, welcome.
Yeah, so
So
we read from. Go ahead, tell us where we read, and yeah, go for it.
So we read from 435 all the way to 442. Does anyone have any comment regarding the verses that we just read?
I have a comment. Oh, please, Mohsen, go ahead.
No, I'm just reading it again in my own head so I can actually understand to see if I've got any questions. Yeah.
I just want to talk about the major commandments in here, right? We see that the first thing that comes is you shall worship God alone, do not associate with anything with him, right? As we can see, the most important thing at the end of the day, among all your deeds, is the fact that to worship God alone. That's the most important thing that matters for your soul, for righteousness, for your deeds. That's the most important thing, right? And then we see after that, there's other commandments too, right? We have to be kind and regard the parents, relatives, orphans, poor, neighbor, and everyone, right? So your conduct, right, the way you talk with people, the way you basically talk with people every day, it's very important, right? You have to present yourself as a righteous human being, right? You have to be very kind with every individual that comes across you. And then after that, we see that how important charity is, right? In here, God calls out those who are stingy, okay? God does not like the people who do not spend in his cause, right? So I think these are some of the important things we have to remember. Basically, most important thing, do not associate anything with God, most important thing. Then, being a kind person, conduct yourself in the best possible manner with everyone, all right? And then make sure to donate in his way, all right? Donate to the poor all the time. Try. It's not asking you to give all your wealth away. It's not asking for all of your money, but whatever is excess, right? Just a little bit every day, give to this person, to that person. Make sure you do that, right? Because that's a gift that God gave you.
Yeah. Oh, look, Yeah, and it's something I've implemented straight away, like 2 years ago. The 2.5 automatically gets deposited somewhere. Yeah, according to the Quran. So, and whenever I can, yeah, it's yeah. I don't wait once a year.
Can someone tell me what is the opposite of stingy in English?
Generous.
Extravagant.
I don't know. Sorry. What was it?
Generous.
Yeah,
Generous?
Yeah,
muhsinin,
generous.
muhsinin, generous.
Yes.
Uh,
Stingy
Yeah.
is a negative. It's not like you're, cautious. So the negative of the extreme on the other side would be extravagant.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, right. And that's
can you write the word?
Say that again? Oh,
Can you
extravagant.
write the word?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
I just want
extravagant.
to learn it.
I got a comment
Sorry.
regarding 35. Basically, so it says, if a couple fears separation, you shall appoint an arbitrator from his family and an arbitrator from her family. If they decide to reconcile, God will help them get together. God is omniscient, cognizant. Two takeaways I have from this. The first one is this aspect of the importance of having like the family involved in marriage. That this is, a lot of times people they elope, they cut their ties with their family, and
Yeah.
when it comes to hard times, praise God, it's good to have family on each other's side. We try to support and reconcile. And I wanted to pull this to two verses because a lot of times when you talk to couples, they think that their differences are, um, what's the word I'm looking for? They can't reconcile. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in Surah 3, verse 103, we have an example where it says, "You shall hold fast the rope of God, all of you. Do not be divided. Recall God's blessings upon you. You used to be enemies, and He reconciled your hearts. By His grace, you became brethren. You were at the brink of a pit of fire, and He saved you therefrom. God thus explains His revelations for you that you may be guided." And in Surah 8, verse 63, it says, "He has reconciled the hearts of the believers. Had you spent all the money on earth, you could not reconcile their hearts. But God did reconcile them. He is almighty, most wise." And this informs us that, no matter how bad we think the situation is, if we implement God's system, that God is the one who can, God willing, if He thinks it's best, to reconcile and mend the situation.
Surely does control everything, doesn't he? Absolutely. Hello.
Brother Taslim had a question regarding 436. Is how does one regard the unrelated neighbor, right? My understanding is that a lot of times we have neighbors, and most of the time they're unrelated, meaning they're not one of our relatives. When we see them, we have to be kind to them, say hello, how are you doing, right? If we're in any way, making their life difficult, in any way, shape, or form, right? We have to try to be considerate of them. That's all, right? I think as it says in the Bible, love thy neighbor, right? Something very similar to that is what my
Yeah,
understanding is.
and it's advertising the Islam. So they might see it in a good light, say, "Oh my God, this person is nice and he's a Muslim," and that could be his, ticket to investigate and be.
But it's good.
Hmm. Yeah, brother.
Does anyone else have any comments or questions about the verses we read?
One
Yeah.
important. Okay, sorry. Go ahead, brother. Don't go ahead.
I had, yeah, okay. Okay, I'll go first, God willing. So I had a comment, but I first want to read Harris's comment here. It's so amazing, mashallah, God's gift. So look at this. He says, Quranists translate the word daraba in 434, which is the verse prior, as separate from. But if that's correct, if that's the correct meaning, why is the verse after 435 saying, if a couple fears separation? And then he continues and says, why would God ask a couple to separate? And then in the very next verse say, if they fear separation. So I thought that was very logical. Those, if you translate it as separate as a last alternative, and then next verse it says, it would then say, if they fear separation, then it doesn't, even though even like in the Arabic, good dude knows this, they're not the same. But it's just that's a very good point, mashallah. But the point I was going to make was if you look at 441, it's a completely different topic. 441 says, "Thus, when the day of judgment comes, we will call upon a witness from each community, and you, the messenger, will serve as a witness among these people." So the messenger right now is gone, right? Which means that if
Yeah.
we spread the message, then we are like if we spread the message. So say, for example, my city, and then day of judgment comes, I will be a witness for the city, right? But the messenger is already gone. He will be a witness for those people. So this is where the theme of I am functioning as a messenger in the city comes from, by the way. So
Yeah.
I think I
And
thought that was pretty important. I'm not a commissioned messenger, right? So I'm not authorized. My teachings on it, but I'm functioning as a messenger because I'm delivering the message that God gave through His messenger. So this is where that concept comes from, I think, or one of the verses at least. Yeah, that was my comment.
All right. I just wanted to talk about. Taiba's asked about 437, asking what does it mean by concealing what God has bestowed upon them from His bounty? So in this case, I think it's talking about stingy people that, when you talk to them, and, for example, if you see them, they act poor, right? I've seen a lot of these people. God has given them a lot of money. They don't spend the money on themselves alone. Not alone, let alone that, right? They don't give to the charity too. Okay, so I think that's calling out those people who are so
yeah,
stingy, that don't spend on themselves and don't spend on others, right? So that's the issue. They're concealing whatever God has given them, right? One important thing is that when God gives you, wealth and health and all that, right? You have to use it in a proper way, in a good way for yourself. You should not be extravagant, as we've seen before, right? And at the same time, you should not be stingy. One of my bad qualities was my stinginess a few years ago. I was very stingy and I wouldn't spend on a lot of things, right? And then I was like reading the Quran and it's like God's calling you out, right? He gave you this money to use it, right? Why are you hoarding it for what reason, right? Make sure you use the gifts that's God giving you in a good way, and at the same time to share those gifts with others. Do not conceal them. That's how I understand 437. Does that answer your question, Taiba? Okay, I assume yes. Um, did she say yes? Yeah, okay. Also for 438, we see the complete opposite of this, right? So some people are stingy, do not basically like conceal whatever they have, they don't talk about it, right? And at the same time, you see people who give them money for basically show off, right?
yeah,
You're just doing this. You don't believe in God. You're just doing it to look like a nice person, like a kind person. Oh, I do this, all of this, right? It doesn't count. It's not going to count, right? If you are showing off, if you don't believe in God in the last day, God's literally telling you, says if one's companion is the devil, that is the worst companion, right? So do
yeah.
not let your good acts, good action, and good deeds go to waste, right? And how can we do that, right? First of all, we have to make sure we're not doing this to show off, right? And at the same time, you have to believe in God in the last day to make all of this count, God willing.
Inshallah.
Wanted to just share some verses, the ones that War Thunder was touching upon. In Surah 17, verse 26 through 28, it says, "You shall give the due alms to relatives, the needy, the poor, and the traveling alien. Do not be excessive, extravagant. The extravagant are brethren of the devils, and the devil is unappreciative of his Lord. Even if you have to turn away from them as you pursue the mercy of your Lord, you shall treat them in the nicest manner." And then we also have the example of Qarun, the slave driver. It says in 2876, "Qarun, the slave driver, was one of Moses' people who betrayed them and oppressed them. We gave him so many treasures that the keys thereof were almost too heavy for the strongest band. His people said to him, 'Do not be so arrogant. God does not love the arrogant, those who are arrogant. Use the provisions bestowed upon you by God to seek the abode of the hereafter without neglecting your share in this world. Be charitable as God has been charitable towards you. Do not keep on corrupting the earth. God does not love the corrupters.
Yeah, I think it's in here is very clear, right? So when God gives you a gift, right, it's not asking you to give it all away, right? It's not asking for altruism. You don't have to, just like not spend any money anything on yourself and give it all away. No, use it for your own good, right? Live a good life, live a comfortable life, but at the same time, make sure to put your focus on the hereafter and donate from what He has given you, right? With great power comes great responsibility, right? So the more money you get, the more you have to give. At the same time, you're gonna benefit a lot, right?
Group fight.
Uh, yes.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right.
sorry.
Does anyone? Sorry, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, go on, man. No, you're up.
All right. So okay, we discussed all this. There's three more verses about divine justice from 440 to 442. I'm gonna put them again because it's a little bit high. They might not see it. I'm gonna put them again in VC1 chat. Does anyone have any comments regarding these verses in here?
I wanted to actually comment about 36 since we didn't talk about the first part. This is one of the strongest commandments in the sense of that you shall worship God alone. Do not associate anything with Him. A lot of times people have this misconception that it's merely like putting a entity next to God, but even the mere act of associating things with God perpetually, in the sense like you can't mention God's name alone without mentioning some other entity beside Him. God is saying don't do that because the second that we basically lose this commitment, this worship to God alone, then in essence we fall in the camp of those who are setting up idols next to God. Even if we say that this is the servant of God, this is the minion of God, it doesn't matter. If we cannot basically address and worship God alone, and we're constantly referring to some other entity, be it His servant, His slave, next to that of God, in essence we're breaking this crucial commandment.
I've been struggling. I've been struggling with that commandment, and I do absolutely get it. Focus on God. But it's been a sort of active sort of fight with me when I think sometimes about work and about this and about that, and it's like I take my focus off God, and I then have to pull myself back a little bit and then say, God controls everything. Like I heard the talks. Let go and let God. God controls everything, absolutely. So, and yeah, I'm fighting myself to bring it back, and it's like, oh man, like it's a bit of work for me, but hopefully I can get to that, smooth place where I'm content with it, and God accepts me and makes it easier for me.
Praise God. Yeah, God, that's the thing is if we make God our focus, our number one focus, God
Yeah,
makes it easy for us. And it's
yeah,
a process. But,
yeah,
there's a distinction between, say, for instance, uh, unwillingly, like, you get distracted by work, by family, by just like life events. There's someone
yeah.
who intentionally is setting up, in essence, a entity next to God to the point that they can't mention God alone without bringing up this other entity.
Okay, yeah,
I think
that's
uh,
yeah,
one of the prime examples I've seen regarding this not associating anything is the way I see it with a lot of traditional Muslims, with basically Shias and Sunnis. They're all their things that they're doing, all their rituals. I mean, I can say most. I'm not gonna say all because I don't know. Maybe they do something else. But you look into their when they want to do their prayer, right? They're gonna do the adhan, or even before they're gonna do the wudu. For Sunnis, they have to bring another source beside the word of God to make them just begin the process of the salat, right? So instead of doing four steps in the wudu as God told them, they're gonna do nine because what? Because Bukhari told them to, right? And that's just the beginning. You go into the adhan, they have to bring the ashhadu an after saying ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, they have to say ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. They just can't say it. They're associating it with that, like they're not able to separate God as the main source of your focus, your worship practice, your everything, right? They're not able to do that, and we see it in their wudu, in their adhan. we see it in the Salat, right? And even we see it with the Hajj, right? When they go to Hajj, they go to Mecca, they go to the right place, but after that, they have to go to Medina, right? They have to honor their dead prophet. They just can't do it without it, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the prime examples of always trying to stick something with God. You don't have to. It's just God alone. That's it.
Yeah, they do it. They do it to themselves. They're their own worst enemies. It's not really hard science, really, to be honest. But yeah, the devil really tests them. Unbelievable.
I wanted to bring up a comment about regarding the people around you, regarding them, and not being an arrogant show off. And it's come to my attention that that a lot of times submitters we come off as know-it-alls, or that we're better than, or that we're better than others. This kind of a thing, and I've been kind of looking at this closely, and it seems that it kind of ties in with this verse about being arrogant. For example, if you think you're better than somebody to begin with, and you're trying to spread the message, it's a non-starter. That you've already annoyed the person that you're with. You may not even know you're doing it. You just, and some way, a lot of times you have to regard the person, and one way to regard them and not be arrogant is to just answer their questions specifically. And when we lecture, oftentimes when we lecture, that's a major put off. You're not regarding the person who's in front of you. You're kind of dipping into your well and showing how much you know, which could be kind of arrogance in a sense. That if you don't pay attention to who you're with and be sensitive to their questions and where they're at, and even if you like say, well, maybe God will guide you, these kinds of things, you have to be aware of how that comes across, well, because they're thinking, well, maybe God will guide you. You know what I'm saying? It's a very delicate process, and we have to be very careful.
Yeah, dishonoring people is not to go. Yeah, I would totally agree.
Anybody who's raised teenagers will know that all of your lecturing does nothing.
Oh,
Nothing.
wow.
It is literally, it off-puts them. So going on and on a topic and not being sensitive, not regarding the person who's in front of you. You have to is this something you're interested in? Is this something that am I answering your question? This kind of feedback, engaging the person that you're trying to share God's message with.
You're right. Yeah. So,
Comment I had regarding 440 says, God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. On the contrary, he multiplies the reward manifold for the righteous work, and grants from him a great recompense. We see that again and again. God said in another place that all your bad deeds are just going to count as one, but every good thing that you had done is going to count as 10. My bad. It's going to multiply by 10. So you see the justice that he's doing, he's just, but he's always trying to give you more. He wants you. He wants you to be a righteous person, right? And whatever chance that, you get, he's going to give you more, right? It's the way I say it, it's always the greatest deal anyone can take, right? Whenever you convert or you repent from your old ways to the new way to, worship God alone, all your bad deeds are going to convert to good deeds, all right? And then after that, every good deed that you do is going to be multiplied manyfold, right? I think this is the greatest deal anyone in the world can take, right? Imagine, you donate $1, it's going to be multiplied hundreds of times, right? By God. And that's how it works, right? Just remember it. It's whatever good that you do, he's going to multiply it for you. But whatever bad you do, it's just going to count as one. And even that, you can just repent, if you repent and, correct your actions and all that, inshallah, he can forgive you that as well. Get a clean slate every time.
inshallah.
MashaAllah. I have also a question, brothers and sisters. What is your definition of extravagant, please? Thank you.
I mean, the way I see it, the moment you're trying to buy anything to show off, right? So let's say I buy a car, very expensive car, solely due to the reason that I want to impress other people. When I want to drive it, I want to drive it and see other people looking at me and be like, "Oh wow, this person is very rich." This is very obvious. This is extravagance. However, I would say that comfort, safety and all that is not necessarily extravagance, right? So if I buy an expensive car and the reason I'm buying it because it has a good quality, right? It's very safe, it's very fast, right? Then I wouldn't call it extravagance necessarily, right? So again, use the gifts that God has given you to a certain extent that it basically makes you feel comfortable, it makes you feel safe, right, and all of that, right? But remember, if you're doing it solely to the purpose of, I'm just going to show off, right, then it's going to become problematic, right? For a lot of men, for us, it's like buying cars, big houses, and for a lot of women, buying these designer clothes or jewelry, right? Again, to a certain extent, if you want to just become beautiful, if you want to buy beautiful clothes, very fashionable, no problem. But you would know yourself that at some point, I'm doing this too much. If I'm buying like 20,000, I'm paying $20,000 for a bag, then it's expensive. It's extravagant, right? At some point, you're gonna pass that line, and you would know, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
Yeah, agreed.
Well, the only thing, maybe we should bring out the horses. Salam alaikum, everyone. Maybe we related to the extravagance because I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's a context to that. We just want to make sure that we're talking about the right context. I suggest that.
All right, so I think brother dude put it for us a little while ago. 22876. Go ahead,
It's
bro.
it's 1726-27, and then the other one is in regards to 2567. So just really quick. 1726-27, you shall give the due alms to the relatives, the needy, the poor, the traveling alien, but do not be excessive, extravagant. Extravagant are brethren of the devils, and the devil's unappreciative of his Lord. In 2567, it says, when they give, they are neither extravagant nor stingy, they give in moderation. If I could just give a quick summary as far as like how I would define extravagant, it's in the verse, but it's unappreciative. Because you think about it, if you have a value for the assets that God has given you, in essence, you wouldn't just be wasteful with those, what God has given you. Imagine I give my kids like a new shirt, and I see them that, they take it off, they throw it on the ground, they got mud on it, and stuff like that. I would say, hey, you're being unappreciative of what you have. It's the same thing if God, blesses us with like money, resources, food, and stuff like that, and we're just, extravagantly giving away without giving it the value it deserves. Then in essence, I would see that in the same camp.
All
So
right,
I
if no
see
one
it
else, okay, go ahead.
giving. Yeah, the context of giving. It's in the context of charity, if you will. So in the context that you would not, I think there's another verse that says you should take care of your own family before others. So there's a precedence is that the money that you're given, you shouldn't hold it too tight to yourself, which means you shouldn't be stingy, and at the same time you shouldn't be extravagant in which you affect. You lose priority of the fact that your family and the people around you need you need to take care of them first before you take care of someone else. So, but this definition of what constitutes extravagance can vary from someone to someone. We had someone who were in the submitter say, "Oh, he has 300 extra at the end of the month. He give it away." I mean, for me, that's maybe extravagant. For me, just whatever whatever you can. If you have to do saving, you have to do saving and give the rest away, whatever. So it depends on the situation, may be different, but the principle is that don't go excessive with giving money out. Consider the fact that if it kind of affects your finances, you should be considered on that. And at the same time, don't be too stingy, not doing any charity or doing very little.
I was thinking that the extravagant was with regard to the individual you're giving it to. Like, for example, if I wanted to be extra charitable and gave to a bunch of people modest amounts, I don't see anything wrong with that. It's the extravagance with the individual. For example, you don't want to, if they're a poor person, you don't want to give them so much that you pull them out of poverty, because that's the condition that God is testing them in. They're in that position. That's how I see it. It's about giving. It's the amount that you give to that person that you don't change their life. You just help them.
I think Sister Susan wanted to say something. Come forward if you want.
Yes, sir. And it wasn't actually in regards to the extravagance, but actually about the showing off. I just want to make sure that I'm doing right. For the past 5 years, our community, we have a meetup called Sandwiches for the Homeless, and when we have like families that we deliver groceries or packages that we give out to the homeless once a month. But on Facebook, sometimes I post the pictures, and it brings people closer to knowing what submission is all about. I've got like people that come, and we all go to like a food court in the farmers market, and we talk. It's ended up with doing like interfaith scripture studies where we talk about one subject in different. So it brought us together as there's Christians, Jews that come and help. And we don't talk about religion, but if they're interested, we talk about it. So would that be classified as showing off if I post things? I've stopped posting because of that. Every once in a while I do, but God says that He's going to give us more credit if we don't. But at the same time, when I post it, it helps people to want to donate to the cause, or actually advertise with submission. Would that be okay?
I want to
I
say
can't
like,
see
yeah,
anything. Go ahead.
Jeff.
Go ahead.
That's advocating
Yeah,
feeding
that's
the
what I was.
poor. I think that's not. That's not. Yeah,
That's
that's what God
exactly.
says. Who rejects the faith, the one who doesn't advocate it. So you're
Yeah,
advocating it.
that's exactly
The
what I was
only
gonna
way that
say.
your charity will go waste is that you follow it up with the insult. That would
Yeah.
waste it away.
I want to say like, if you read these verses though, it says the ones who are stingy and exhort the people to be stingy and conceal what God has bestowed upon them from His bounties. They give money to charity only to show off while disbelieving. So it's not. That's exactly what I was gonna say. I mean, you're not exhorting the people to be stingy. You're not just doing it to show off. There's a certain system there is actually advocating righteousness.
It sounds beautiful, actually, sister. So God bless you.
The
Praise God for the
verses,
opportunity.
the verses Brother Jude put, it's very, I think, profound. So it says, "Nor did he advocate defeating the poor," right? And then again, same thing. No, and does not advocate the feeding of the poor, right? So again and again, we should promote it. We should promote the basically these charities. But I think where I would draw the line is that do not make it about us, right? So a lot of times I see people create like very wealthy individuals create these foundations, right? And they put their names on it, right? So what I would say is just not make it about yourself. Do not make it about the people, but make it about God, right? That's I think the best way you can go about it to make sure that okay, this is not about me. I'm not trying to show off, and at the same time, I'm promoting a good deed, right? That's all.
And there's the
Does that
verse that says, "Don't ask for thanks." We're not doing it for thanks. So that's a perfect. That well said, I'd say, all of you. But yeah, sister, congratulations. That's fantastic.
Praise be to God. Last year, for example, we went to the art festival. We had the booth for submission, and we put every artwork that had a submission theme on it, or a godly theme on it. And we would say, whatever if you buy it, whatever price you want, and then we'll give it towards the homeless. And the UTAP was actually the nonprofit organization that they donated it to. And praise God, we sat there, people bought things, but only one person, we had like the submitter perspectives on the table for people to scan use the scan to use it on their phones. Only one person got the message, but there were like Christians that like hardcore Christians that came, and they were trying to tell us that this is not right, and giving us like pamphlets about Christianity, because we had like a big poster saying submission is happiness is submission to God alone. And it kind of threatened a lot of idol worshippers. So they would come towards us, give us like things like who is this really? What? And it was just it was several things happening at once.
Yeah, I want to read 2 more verses, God
Just
willing.
real quick,
Yeah, go
real
ahead.
quick, brother Mosin, can you mute when you're not? I try to message you. Can you mute when you're not speaking to minimize background noise?
Yeah, sorry, I'll do that now. Yeah, sorry, mate. I wasn't moving around too.
Okay,
No
so
problem. God bless you. Go ahead, brother.
thank you. So yeah, I wanted to read 2 verses regarding this topic to strengthen it more. It says in chapter 2, verse 274, it says, "Those who give to charity night and day, secretly and publicly, receive their recompense from their Lord. They will have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve." Another verse is 755. It says, "You shall worship your Lord publicly and privately. He does not love the transgressors." So charity is a form of worship. So you shall do it publicly and privately. There's no limit there. I remember I sometimes I keep my door open, and if I do salat, I remember this verse if someone is coming, and I just feel all safe again, because you don't, God is. So there's reasons why these verses are here. That's what I'm trying to say. But don't feel bad about that. The specific thing, because you can do it. Like, it's completely granted. The only thing that these verses are saying is that it's about people who are stingy. They exhort stinginess, and they only give to charity for show off. So they are specifically people who are exhorting stinginess. So yeah, we need to look at the context.
I was gonna share, this is like a misunderstanding, and it's funny that they do this regarding the act of charity for some Christians. I think that it has to be done in secrecy. That in essence they use this Matthew 6 where it says, "Do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing." So it's going to be favorable. The reality is, yeah, we give to charity, as Erdem mentioned, secretly and publicly. If we're not leading that effort to show that this is, culturally something that we want to strive for, and in essence, it's not going to set a good example, right? If people are only doing the charity secretly, then it seems like the bar is set low for charity. You want to make it a public thing. You want people to feel good about giving to charity. You want this to be part of the culture. So, God bless you and keep striving, and don't let the devil's allies, defer you from that.
So I have a question regarding this. So, but in another verse I remember I was reading a few days ago, it says, if you donate secretly, it's better than publicly, right? So how do you guys sort of resolve that with the idea that no, we have to do it publicly?
Susan, were you going to make a comment?
Yes, sir. I was saying that before COVID, we actually like set a table. We played music for worship music for them, and we, had like a hot dog stand, and we gave them hot dogs, and they were all gather up. And the Christians would come and say, "Stop feeding them, because when you're feeding them, we can't, they have to be hungry so they could listen to our words." And they were saying, so,
Wow.
it was interesting, but um, just sharing.
That's so bad on so many levels. Don't feed them because they will leave.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
That's
Worthen, regarding your
classic.
question,
Oh my
regarding your
God.
question about giving secretly, yeah, the aspect is, if someone is giving it and no one else knows, and you could say with a clear conscience that this person did it for the sake of God, got no worldly benefit from this. Because if someone's giving money and they say, "Hey, look, I got my name on a plaque," or so and so recognized me, I got some award, or in essence, others see them doing the act, In essence, the devil can make a claim that this person was doing it because they wanted to show off. If someone does it secretly, anonymously, without the person even knowing, it eliminates that potential claim. But again, both methods must be utilized. We must do it publicly and we must do it privately. Same thing with prayer. When we do our salat, we have to be able to do it publicly and privately to show that we worship God under all circumstances, that we're, God willing, trying to set a good example. We're not doing this merely to draw attention for ourselves. That even in the seclusion, of our own homes, if no one's around, we're still worshiping God. We're still doing our salat. We're still reverent. So it's one of these things that has to be the full gamut.
As well,
Go ahead.
as well, it also points out in that same verse that was just put in VC1 chat, it remits more of your sins. And so there's clearly an encouragement on that element, because if it's remitting more of your sins, it makes a lot of sense, because if it's private, there is nobody in the outside world in order to, I don't know, exalt yourself or look good in a certain way, because it's completely private. No one knows. So the only person you would be doing it for is for God, because nobody knows. So it's a clear, in my opinion, would be a proof to God that it's for him, especially when you're, of course, for submitters, we know we're doing that, but it's very clear. Satan can't make a claim because nobody knows, so, which is kind of in light of what dude's saying, which is, I wanted to reinforce that part of the verse that says it remits more of your sins.
Yeah, definitely, Mike. I think the emphasis of the other verses where it says secretly and publicly is like giving us a safe pass. So, especially for circumstances where we might feel bad if we do it publicly. And it says do it publicly and secretly. So I think, yeah.
Sinstar was going to make a comment, I think.
Yeah, I was just talking about like the doing charity publicly aspect. I mean, it's good in one way because when my dad used to do charity and to teach me how to do like charity and to give, he used to always do it. I'm not gonna say publicly, but he used to always tell me how much he gave to where, to who, and that for me taught me like, oh, I need to give this amount to this guy, and that by doing that, I mean, I grew up more and more. Like growing up, like I didn't have like I had an understanding of how to do charity, how to give out, to who to give out, and he told me not to do it publicly, but still do it. I mean, even if someone saw you doing it, that's not too bad. I mean, you didn't like think of him. You just gotta do it. That's all. Yeah.
It's good. I mean, it's absolutely critical, for the sake of setting a good example, encouraging others, competing in righteousness, that, we don't just do these stuff in private. People, identify righteous individuals as ones who do these acts. That, even the portion that they see publicly, what they don't see is all the stuff that we do, privately, the ways that we strive, we try to draw closer to God, and do, righteous commandments. I wanted to bring up a verse. Oh, good.
It's okay. Yes, I just, while you're on the charity issue subject, is wonderful. I thank God I come from a community of submitters that they are very generous and they are always striving to do charitable acts. We have some individuals in different countries that take the burden or the wonder thing to collect the money and then make sure this money is spent in the best possible way. So they buy furniture for the new bride, or they give a um, say they educate kids who are not allowed to go to school, feeding them, clothing them. I mean, there are just so many things, and it's amazing. Uh, the minute they announce it, in no time they raise the money right away, and it's amazing. One of the projects that God be glorified, I like to talk about it, is the charity water. And then, thank God, Masjid Tucson carries it, but our brother um, Rahim in our mosque um, basically takes care of everything. They build wells for people who had to walk 5 miles with this huge bottle, container behind their back, and they're all women, to just bring home water that is dirty, is brown, and if you eat it, if you drink it, you get sick. So a lot of people used to get sick just by drinking water that was polluted. And whenever, by God's infinite grace, He comes and says, okay, this is what we're going to do this year. He, for example, wanted to raise $35,000 this year for the wells that he has picked, accordingly, who is more needy. And he ended up raising $55,000. So people are very charitable in our mosque, and I really appreciate it because it just basically tells us that we have our focus in the right place. And God says you cannot attain certainty unless you give away from things you love. And thank God we have people who promote it. But for example, when we go and actually make the donation on the website, it says you can put your name and the amount. When you look at it, nobody has put their names. They just put the money. In other words, they don't want to be publicizing how much money they donated to this cause. That's one way of doing charity that is actually promoted, but still hiding the names of the people who were donating to the cause. If you are interested, there is another day left for spending in this cause. By Monday it will be finished. So if you wish, you can go to masjidtucson.org.
Just
uh
put the link.
yes, somebody post the link, it would be great.
Okay,
So till tomorrow, Monday, we have time to put. And this kind of charity, I must say, not only is life changing, it saves people life. And when you invest in such a project, you get the benefit of it for years and years to come. For people who didn't have water, and now they have water right brought home. It is amazing charity, and all of it, 100% of it, goes to charity. And I just wanted to remind you that this
Thank
wonderful.
you so much, sister. Thank you very much.
God bless you. Thank you, dear.
God bless you for that. All right, so we read the verses from chapter 4. Peace be upon everybody that's here. Welcome to the Quran study. Praise God. We got a jam-packed Quran study. This is wonderful. We read from chapter 4, verse 35 to 42. Does anyone have any questions about any of this?
We haven't talked about.
I wanted to.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. Peace be upon you all. Mashallah, some great comments were made, and yeah, mashallah, that's a great project that sister just spoke about. I wanted to add a couple of things regarding extravagant. So, definition of that says lacking restraint in spending money or using resources. And also another definition, exceeding what is reasonable or appropriate. So just kind of spending without kind of having the boundaries or the restraint, and exceeding what's reasonable or appropriate. So God says, as it's been talked about, to not be excessive, not to be extravagant in giving charity. And another verse that's related is Surah 17, verse 29. The previous verse, I think 26, 27 and 28 were read, but 29, the next verse I wanted to add, stinginess condemned as the subtitle, that you shall not keep your hand stingily tied to your neck, nor shall you foolishly open it up, lest you end up blamed and sorry. So I think that's the two ends of the the two extremes that we want to avoid, being stingy or being extravagant. We don't want to be giving so much that it's, somebody from the outside looking at it, it seems foolish to give that much, and then we end up regretting it because we needed that money, or there was a good way for us to use the money for us or our families or other places where should have been priority, or we should have used it. Mashallah. And then I wanted to add regarding 35. We had this discussion about people talking about temporary marriages, and if we look at 35, it's one of those things that makes it clear that this is not, the marriage should not be like this temporary thing, because God is saying, even if you fear the separation, now get the family involved and see if you can reconcile. So I wanted to add that as well. Thanks. And by the way, I'm away from the chat. Thank you.
We haven't talked about verses 40 through 42. I know, War Thunder, you tried to bring this up. Says, God does not inflict an atom's weight of injustice. On the contrary, he multiplies the reward manifold, the righteous work, and grants from him a great recompense. Everything God does is for the sake of trying to get individuals, or encouraging individuals to get back on the right path. And if we see things in the grand scheme of realizing that there's a day of judgment, that everyone's going to be held accountable, there's never going to be 1 ounce, 1 atom of injustice. Meaning that anything that happens to us in this world, in this life, there's a good reason for it. If we're patient, if someone did us wrong, God will will rectify, will resolve the matter, and we just have to trust in God's system.
All right. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, I guess. Yeah, we can't load the next verses as
I want
well
to
because
read.
we're done with today.
I just want to read a verse from Surah 72, verse 13. Let me load it up. It says, "We heard the guidance, we believe therein." This is the gens. "Anyone who believes in his Lord will never fear any injustice nor any affliction." And that this is one of the beauties of getting into submission, is that we never feel like we'll be wronged, because we know that God is most just, most merciful, that God is controlling every single atom. In Surah 10, verse 61, 64, we read, "Because you do not get into any situation, nor do you recite any Quran, nor do you do anything without us being witnesses thereof as you do it. Not even an atom's weight is out of your Lord's control, be it in the heavens or the earth. Or is there anything smaller than an atom or larger that is not recorded? That is not recorded in a profound record. Absolutely, God's allies have nothing to fear, nor will they grieve. Those who believe and lead a righteous life, for them joy and happiness in this world as well as in the hereafter. This is God's unchangeable law. Such is the greatest triumph." Does anyone else have any comments about the verses we read? So we read again from Surah 4, verse 35, about marriage arbitration. We read about the major commandments, and then the last section, verses 40 through 42, about divine justice. Is there any
Yeah,
other questions,
yeah, I
comments?
want to make a comment about this actually. This is really amazing. So in 435, I'm curious what you guys think, but it says marriage arbitration. If a couple fears separation, you shall appoint an arbitrator from his family and an arbitrator from her family. If they decide to reconcile, God will help them get together. The way I understand that, and then it says God is omniscient, cognizant, meaning God knows everything and he's fully aware, correct? And so when it says God will help them get together, to me, that's command that's done. It's guaranteed victory. It's guaranteed success. Really, it just says if they decide to reconcile. So if the husband and wife truly make a decision that they want to reconcile, to me, from what I understand here, God is guaranteeing victory. But of course, they don't always decide to reconcile, and God will not force a situation that they're not interested in. But I just found it interesting that if you are genuinely vested and make the decision to reconcile, God will make it happen. 100% guarantee. So I wanted to see what your guys' thoughts on that is, because when it says God will help you, God is not there's no effort from God, right? He doesn't make an effort. It's not like, okay, God made an effort and then maybe his effort's successful. Maybe when God helps you, that's it. It's done. So that's kind of how I understood that. And it was very powerful to witness that. But I'm curious what you guys think.
One of the things I've always thought about is that no matter what we do, like in the real life, right? I can't like I'll tell you that, read this or, do this program, get this degree and you'll be successful. I can never give you a guarantee, right? I can't give you a guarantee that, oh, you do this, you do that, for sure you'll be guaranteed success, except in one case, right? And that's in the case of religion, because we know God never fails his promise, right? And that's the best kind of deal anyone can have, right? God tells you do this, do that, and you will be guaranteed success, both in this life and in the hereafter. That's a deal that no one else can ever give you, okay? I can't ever tell you that, oh, you will buy this house and you'll be eternally happy. That's just not going to happen, right? If I tell you, get this degree and you'll be set for life, it might not work out, right? But what we can tell you is that if you put your faith in God and put your trust in God, God never fails you. It's guaranteed success both in this life and in the hereafter, right? It's the best kind of investment or deal can anyone enter in, right? So that's what we invite people to.
You just got to be patient, I suppose.
Absolutely. This concept of patience is very important. A lot of times that we want something. I'm like, God, make me rich, right? God, give me this, give me that, right?
Mm.
But it might not be the time for God give it to me, right? So you
Yeah.
have to have patience, and good
Yeah.
things come to those who wait, right?
Yeah.
And we see again and again in Quran, patience is one of the qualities of the righteous people, right? So if you're going through difficulties, or if you're going through tests, put your faith in God, put your trust in God. God willing, you'll come out as victorious. God says there will be ease after hardship, right? So I've always seen that myself. Whenever I go through some difficulty, I put my faith in God. At the end, I'll come out victorious. I'll come out at a better situation than ever before.
Rabbi A'udhu bika min hudati ash-shaytin wa a'udhu bika rabbi natrun. I was just seeing if my mic worked. So, okay. I wanted to say that with regard to um, um, how God doesn't inflict an atom's weight of injustice. This is important to know with regard to the children who are suffering, and how to explain the fact that there are kids who come here and suffer immensely and then die early. And I used to think that the age of 40 answered the suffering question, but it isn't. It's not actually the age of 40 that answering the suffering. That the fact is that they reward, because why do they have to suffer at all? And it comes to the understanding that there are two main reasons why we're sent here. It's for us, but it's also for a test for Satan. And that those individuals, they chose to come here. They chose to come here to be a constituent of Satan, to see how this goes. Now, God had their life end very early and in the conditions that they were, but there is no suffering. There was no atom's weight of injustice because they volunteered or chose with their free will to be a constituent of Satan in this test.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
sorry,
Yeah,
brother.
we
I
all.
don't understand your concept. You mean, can you explain a bit further, please, of what you just shared? I didn't get it. If you may give more details, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure. So this is actually not my idea. This is from Dr. Khalifa, and he's explaining. Somebody was asking about the suffering of the children, and Dr. Khalifa said that that the fact that people die before 40, that doesn't answer the question of suffering. Like, for example, well, if somebody dies before 40, they're a kid, they suffer, and somebody says, well, why did they suffer? And you answer them, well, it doesn't matter because they're going to heaven now. Well, it does matter, because somebody persistent in questioning will question you, well, why did they have to suffer at all? And now this goes back to the what are we doing here at all? And one of the major reasons for the creation of this world and us in it is the testing of Satan to see if he can be a God. He wants to prove that he can be God. Of course, God knows he can't be, but we all volunteered to be constituents of Satan. And so we all come here as constituents of Satan until we prove otherwise, and we escape to God. God saves us from this. So the question is about these children who are suffering. They chose, when we were given an option to have free will or not, they chose the option of being a constituent down here in this test. And therefore, there is not an atom's weight of injustice.
Brother, you mentioned constituents of Satan. That is a very harsh, very strong word. Being a constituent of the Satan is like being a jinn. In other words, jinns are the ones who lean towards following Satan. But the human being, we didn't come down here as constituents of Satan. God forbid. We come here to be tested because, and by the way, we all have the instinct of la ilaha illallah. So I
Okay,
cannot understand.
okay, sister. I'll provide for, God willing. I'll find it is not my. These are not my ideas, and surely I totally agree with you. It's confusing, and the statement is that may be at question is, this is the statement. We come down here as constituents of Satan. We chose to be part of the test. We chose to see, we were like, well, maybe we can be, maybe he can. See, this is what got us down here. Up there, we were like, well, maybe Satan can be a God beside God. And we chose to come down here to take part in the test. And that is what means being a constituent of Satan, because we want to see if he can do it. So we all agreed we want to see if he can do it. That's saying voluntary to be a constituent of Satan. And then once we realize, oh my goodness, only God can be a God, we have to make that firm stance and then seek protection and seek refuge in God and to be to escape to him. But God willing, I'll share with you the audio, because this is not I'm not making this. This is from Dr. Khalifa.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Yes, this life is a temporary experience of this world. Did someone want to say something, Brother Harris? Did you want to say something? Somebody wanted to make a comment about the verse that was read. I saw you writing in the chat. Go ahead, sister.
I was just, yeah, thanks. I was going to add that we as individuals, and we had an existence before this, we were in the few, and we all rules that. So when we come here, our souls are not all at the same place.
Unfortunately, we cannot understand you. Your connection is bad.
Needs to go through to be purified and make it back to God if they choose that. Thank you.
God bless
hold
you.
off then. Thanks.
Sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we cannot understand you, unfortunately. All right. Does
Other
anyone
two.
have any questions? Yeah,
So
what's that?
in terms of the
Okay. Thank you very much. We cannot understand anything you're saying. God bless you. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the verses we read? And at this point, we're also opening up for open discussion on any of the verses or topics in the Quran that you may be dealing with, questions on, or comments about in any of the 6,346 verses that we witnessed inside the Quran. So please type your question in VC1-chat or come up and just unmute your microphone. Please ask your question. Do it now, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I got a comment regarding what you said. I want to go a little bit further on what you, not further, but like emphasize on what you said on anyone who wishes to reconcile, God will support the couple, right? And you said that's done deal. That means that they will reconcile. Because that's a good point. But I want to read, two supporting verses for these. If you look at 3:13, it says, I'm just going to read the portions to emphasize. 3:13, there's a portion that says, God supports with his victory, whomever he wills. So God's support is equal to victory. And another one is chapter 300, verse 160. Says, if God supports you, none can defeat you. Which means that if there's God's support, there's no barrier. There's like none can defeat you. Like even if they are like nukes, God will find a way, right? So it's there's no barrier. There's no, like you said, there's nothing is hard for God. He's omnipotent. So that's a very good point. If a couple wishes to reconcile, God will support them. That means direct victory. MashaAllah. So I just wanted to, yeah.
The thing I'd add to that is the word nasr, that means to support, to help in Arabic. It's not used in verse 435, but in general, it also has the meaning of victory, or a triumph. So if you look in Surah 110, the title of the surah is An-Nasr. This is the victory. The triumph. This word basically has both meanings, meaning that, again, to your point, if God supports you, then in essence you're guaranteed victory. Who's going to oppose God?
Sorry, which verse was
Also,
that? The last verse, dude? Which one was that?
Oh, no, I was just saying it's the same word in Arabic for a triumph as it is, or victory, as it is for support. So if God supports you, in essence, it has the same connotation that you're guaranteed victory.
Oh, that's interesting. MashaAllah. So even more support.
I think the process and the way it's said too, like, they need to bring their parents, and she needs to bring her parents. I think that process there as well sort of softens the blow a bit. My understanding.
Just real quick before I forget, I'm sharing the link for the Quran study event. If you could tap interested on that, should see a check mark. So please mark on that for the documentation purposes and for next week's Quran study. Just sign up for that. You get a reminder. Thank you very much. I put it in VC1-chat. Okay. Go ahead, brother. Erdem, did you want to make a comment?
No, I made my comment, but I think Harris Hanif wanted to say something.
Yeah, Harris is running wild on the text chats today. Come on up, Harris. We want to hear your voice.
No, I was just saying that, in that verse, God says that when a couple decides to change or reconcile, so something that's very interesting in that verse is that, God supports us when we decide to change. So it all comes from within us first. When we make that decision, that firm decision to make a difference or change our thinking or kill our egos, and that's when God comes in and supports us. And most people find themselves stuck in a situation because they've not essentially made it firm decision within their hearts to change. That's what we see throughout. It all boils down to what we decide within our hearts. So many of these verses, when we look at it, and there's also another verse in the Quran where God says that He only changes the circumstance for the people when they decide to change. So it always begins with us, our decisions. So that's a very important point, I believe, that I wanted to share with you guys.
Yeah, the verse
That
was just put at 13:11. It says, "Ships of angels take turns staying with each one of you. They're in front of you and behind you. They stay with you and guard you in accordance with God's commands. Thus, God does not change the condition of any people unless they themselves make the decision to change. If God wills any hardship for any people,
exactly.
no force can stop it. For they
Yeah.
have
So we
none
all
beside him as the Lord and Master."
exactly,
Go ahead.
exactly. So we all have this support system. It's for everyone to use. But God says that it wouldn't make any difference unless and until we make a change within ourselves first. So I think that's what this verse means, and it's a very powerful
It's a
idea.
really good point, because a lot of people, they say, well, God is doing everything, so why should I do anything, Or why should I make any effort? Why should I fight? Why should I strive? Why should I make any effort? It's already recorded. And I think, to me, that's kind of the devil tricking them, because the whole point is you strive and do all these things for credit. We see this in 8:17. If someone can load that verse, this is a very important verse.
Yes, yes, and also sometimes we may feel like, why isn't God supporting me, or why am I not getting help from God? So I think these verses will help us understand that. It's because there's something that needs to be changed within ourselves
Yes,
first. If something is not
exactly.
happening for us, if something is not
Exactly.
happening for us, that this verse is teaching us that it's because you haven't changed something within yourself. So if a couple
Absolutely.
is struggling in reconciling or keeping the marriage together, that's because they haven't changed something within themselves. And that's the reason why there's no support from God coming. God has put all the support system for us. The angels are on both sides. He's there always. But we have to change what is within ourselves. And that may be the way we perceive things, our ego, our selfish nature. We have this me, I nature within ourselves. So when we operate on that nature, we don't receive support from God. So this verse helps us understand that and always self-reflect.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. I just want to read the verse 8:17. God is doing everything. It was not you who killed them. God is the one who killed them. It was not you who threw when you threw. God is the one who threw. But he thus gives the believers a chance to earn a lot of credit. We are here to catch these credits. We are here to unite and strive in the cause of God. That's what we should be focused on. But the moment we make it about ourselves, we say, well, I did this and I don't have the power, or I do have the power. How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? We're just getting into the weeds and details that we have no business getting into. Our job is to do it. I hear this a lot. We hear this a lot. We say, well, why are you even talking to this person or that person? They're never going to listen. God is the one who guides. And it's like, it's never about the person. It's about the credit that we're stacking up. We're racking up these credits and we're getting experience, understanding, depth, knowledge, wisdom, striving. And God says he provides the guidance for those who strive. That's what we should be focused on. Exactly as this verse says, it's not you who threw and you threw. God is the one who threw. God is doing everything. But we have a chance to earn the credit, and that should be our sole focus and striving in that cause to get as much credit as possible. That's our whole point on this planet, is to get closer to God, to worship him and redeem ourselves.
MashaAllah.
Yes, yes, mashallah. And it's also to submit to his will. I think Dr. Rashad Khalifa explained it very well in that video where he said that, when you decide to do something and then it doesn't happen, because that's the basis of what it means by God is doing everything. Because we have our own free will, we can do things, but if it doesn't coincide with the greater will of God, nothing will happen. I can decide to go out for a walk, but if it rains suddenly, then I have to cancel my plans, which means my will is can only operate within the confines of God's will. So when we understand it that way, then we have no reason to be sad of anything that we lost or too happy about whatever we gained. Everything is happening in accordance with God's will. So it's basically a path of no resistance. You're not resisting anything that is coming your way because you know it's in accordance with God's will. And that is how I understand by God is doing everything.
Yes, so
We cannot.
the only
Yeah.
yeah, that's exactly where I wanna. It's the only thing we do is make a decision, just like the point you made at the very beginning, where the couple wishes to reconcile, God will support them. Like if someone wishes to stray, God will support their decision and make them stray off. If someone wishes to believe, God will make them believe. The thing is, God possesses. Look at all these things. God is doing all these things. God possesses all the power. God is doing all the things. If you look at chapter 50, but we make the decision. That's the only thing we can do is make a decision because that is the only thing that really entails us. So if you look at 51:58, it says God is the possessor of all power. So that's the first thing we need to know. He possesses all power. I have no power. Satan also has no power. And if you look at 39:62, it says, God is the creator of all things, and he's in full control of all things. I mean, that's also logical, right? He's creator. But the point is that he is in full control of all things. So how do we reconcile it with the other? Well, that's the thing. The only thing we do is make a decision. That's the only thing we can do. But here's the thing, God supports our decision. Like even if it is straying off the path, he will still support it. Such is the freedom that he gives us. And yeah, that is his power. Or like if we wish to reconcile, like still in these verses, if we wish to reconcile, God will support it. He possesses the power. He will do it. The only thing we do is make a decision.
Assalamualaikum. I just wanted to add about the verse we had discussed about changing what's inside yourself and then God changes the outside is probably in marriage we deal with some of our most difficult issues because obviously it's a very close relationship. So defects in your character or your spouse's character will affect the marriage. And so really in everything in life we have to see what's on the inside, but certainly in marriage we have to examine that, and that can really take some time, and by God's grace he gives us many weeks during the interim to examine ourselves and really question if it has something to do with us. And if it's a person who's following the Quran and they're married to a person following the Quran, I really think if you have, for the 16 weeks or so that you're examining yourself, both parties or one party at least will come to a conclusion most probably that they can identify something inside themselves that is hurting the marriage. Maybe it's a certain attitude, maybe it's a certain belief, certain hangups, lack of forgiveness, whatever it is. And it's not, I think by God's grace, that's why he gives us that time along with the arbitration, because the arbitration is with your family members. And again, your family members know you on a deep level. Like my sisters, I have two sisters. They know the ways in which I'm defective. They grew up with me. They know where I can be short tempered or impatient or, things that will affect my spouse. So through all these mechanisms, I think if both people are willing to look inside themselves, then most probably it's highly likely that through God's system they'll be able to reconcile. Of course, God has made divorce lawful, and I do think it's important we don't attach any stigma to divorce, because I have seen people in situations where they're actually in a dangerous marriage, they're being treated extremely poorly, and they're not walking away because of the stigma in the marriage, and they're putting themselves in harm's way. So that's the other side of the coin. I think in marriages where there's violence, etc., your safety has to come first, and you need to make yourself safe. I'm not saying immediately end the marriage. Every situation is different. Maybe that's appropriate in certain situations, but depending on what's going on, maybe you need to live separately from the person during the waiting interim. But God, of course, 100%, I'm sure, wants us to protect ourselves if we're being subjected to any kind of violence. But in situations where it's not that, it's more sort of maybe the regular issues that happen with spouses, maybe fights over money, other things, God willing, those are issues that can be resolved. It happens in every single marriage. One of the best tips I actually found as a Christian, it was a pastor's wife. She has a YouTube channel. But anyway, she was talking about how her and her husband spend the last half hour of each day just with each other. They turn off their phone, they talk to each other, they check in about the marriage. And I think that's a really nice way to keep checking in about the marriage for the married couples on the call. Mike and I do that, and it's been nice for us. So, but inshallah, may God help us to live good lives and have happy marriages. And
Yeah, I mean, if there's for Happy Soul, I just wanted to address this. If there's a constant abuse or they're disbelievers and they're forcing you to engage in unrighteous acts and do bad things and oppressing and forcing and coercing repeatedly and consistently, that's not situations we're talking about. God's remedies work for people that uphold them. And in the marriage context, it requires both people to be on board when it comes to upholding God's commandments and have a desire to have a godly outlook and a godly outcome, right? So if there's a situation where there's just rampant abuse, this and that, then there's no, when we're talking about a guarantee of success, that doesn't apply to that situation, if that makes sense.
Son, are you saying that we have to actually talk with our spouses? Can we just like send a occasional text message?
Yeah.
Mike, were you gonna say?
communication is key.
Gifts, just gifts.
Yeah, we're in the other room from each other, and we're on our own phones on the same Quran study.
Good, that's wonderful. I encourage everyone to do that. Double up. If there's
Double
two
Quran
people on here
study.
for doing that, instead of 40
Yeah.
people, would be 80 people on VC. Even better. That's wonderful. Do it. Stack it up. If you have 5 people in your family, get all 5 on their accounts.
Inshallah, that'll
One thing I
happen
wanted
soon.
to say regarding guaranteed success in this world, do you guys see it that if we're in God's system, we do everything right, that no difficulty or no test will come upon us? Because I see it as, if you are in the way of God, if you're striving in His cause, not making, grave mistakes, you will have a, relatively happy, content life, and at the end you'll be victorious. But again, you will go through difficulties, you will go through tests. What do you guys think about this concept?
I think it's like starting a new job. Like most time, you got probation period, and God wants to test you. I mean, it's probably not similar, but He wants to test you, and He wants to see what your true conviction is. And once you pass that test, which He says, you're going to get a test. You're not going to go without a test to enter My kingdom. And if you're good for it, He'll look after you. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you personally that, it's true. There will be happiness in this life, but again, there will be tests to distinguish the hypocrites and the disbelievers from the righteous people.
Absolutely.
So Sister Missy asked a question. She wrote, I have a question. It sort of relates to reconciliation. I've noticed many times a good person may marry a not so good person. So how would you guys understand this verse in Surah Nur that says the good-hearted woman for the good-hearted man? Do you have that verse so we can look at it right now and just load it here directly? It's chapter 4.
It's chapter 24.
No, she's talking about one. Oh, I'm sorry, chapter 24. I'm sorry.
I think she's saying like the chaste woman and the chaste man.
I think
Yes, it's chapter 24. You're right. It's chapter 24. I apologize.
That's how I
So
got it. Yeah.
you have the verse?
No, I haven't got it in front of me, but that's the way I understood it. The chaste woman for the chaste man, the good woman for the good man, and just kept going on, going on, going on.
24, 26. No problem.
Where are you getting these Quran verses from? You got another? You got your
Yeah, you
Quran?
just type /Quran. It's a command. You type /Quran and it loads up.
Oh,
24,
okay.
26. It says the good man, bad women for the bad man, and the bad men for the bad women, and the good women for the good men, and the good men for the good women.
And non-believers for the non-believers, or something like that as well. Somewhere
No,
there.
that's it.
No,
I think
that's
that's
not that one.
it.
Slash. What? Sorry,
So
slash what again? Sorry, mate.
/Quran.
Quran. Yeah, cool.
/Quran
Yeah, and
and
another
or
place it
e-Quran with the
says, I
Arabic.
think,
So just let's address our question real quick.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know. Okay, so dude, did you want to comment on this verse?
Can I say until the yeah, okay, he's here. Yeah, okay, let me just say quickly then, cuddling. So yeah, you're right. It's not chaste. I take it back. It is the good woman and the good men and the bad woman and bad men. But if you look at the context, such accusations, it says at the end of the verse, so it's talking about accusation on people who like do gross sins in terms of sexuality, I think. That's the context.
Can I say something?
Yeah, dude, please go ahead.
I mean, the translation's there, so this is the bad woman for the bad men. The good. There is other ones in the context of chase, but in this. But Rafa, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I want to say so. I want to say if it's about a woman, why at the end? I mean, in the end in that verse, he said they will have forgiveness and honorable provision. So when I read it in Arabic, there is nothing mentioned about men or women. Nothing. So we have an old interpretation which is about women. So they said good women are for a good man, and bad women for bad men. So but I don't know how you can interpret it like this when you read all the verse. So at the end of the verse, he said, أولئك مبرؤون مما يقولون لهم مغفرة ورزق كريم. So they will have forgiveness and honorable provision. So it's about speech. It's about speak. It's about words. It's not about it's not about physics. It's not about body. He's talking about words, good words. So if you tell me something good, I tell you something good. You tell me something bad, I'm gonna tell you something bad. This is how it's how I understand it. It's not about human at all.
Going
But
back to the question that was
Wait, wait,
asked.
wait. Is Rafa?
Oh,
Are
go
you
ahead.
talking about 24-26?
yes, I'm talking
Okay, so
about this one.
yeah, so the concept is then why is it in the feminine then the masculine, the feminine then the masculine? It's I think to say that this is in regards to words, like I can understand, but in essence, it seems like if you
Oh,
read the verse in context, like say from 24-23, this is in the context of people, not words.
no. So when you said al-khabithat wal al-khabithin, الخبيثات جمع مؤنث غير العاقل. I don't know how to say this in English. This is a plural for something. I don't know if someone here can help me. So it's not about
You can say
it's
the
not about a
baddies.
human.
The baddies. You can say like the English equivalent would be the baddies, but in the feminine, and then
Yes,
the
in
baddies in the
I don't know because probably brother because in the English version it's you can read something else, but when you read it in Arabic doesn't mean people. So al-khabithat it's a plural for something it's not for a human. You understand me? You can use it in both sides, but here what he mentioned here is words. الخبيثات للخبيثين والخبيثون للخبيثات it's the same. So at the first, he said bad words for bad people.
the word
The
words
second
isn't even
one,
there.
ah,
The word words isn't even there, right? So that's an
exactly,
extrapolation.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. The word words does not exist, but this is the sentence, the whole sentence. This is the whole meaning.
I mean,
There is
it would the literal if we were taking the literal, it would be, the baddies feminine for the baddies masculine, the goodies for the feminine for the goodies masculine. I mean, that would be the literal
see.
translation.
Do you
Then the
see?
question is like, okay,
Do you see
baddies and the
like
goodies of what?
exactly? So do you see like word women in the verse or men?
No, but the fact that why would it, if it's in the context of words, why would it distinguish between the masculine and the feminine?
Yeah, because at the end he said those innocent of what they said for them. You understand me? He's talking about words. At the end he said those
Oh,
are
no. So I
innocent.
think this is a callback to 423 regarding false accusations.
Yeah, yeah, that was what I was saying as well. Like the
24, 24,
Look
23, my bad.
look to 24 exactly. Look to 24. يوم تشهد عليهم ألسنتهم وأيديهم وأرجلهم بما كانوا يعملون. On the day their tongues, hands, and feet will testify against them for what they use it to do.
Yeah, but
So
read 24, 23, because I think that's the verse that in essence when it's saying, it's talking about accusations. If we look at 24, 23, it says, surely those who falsely accuse married women who are pious believers have incurred condemnation in life in the hereafter, and they have incurred a horrendous retribution.
exactly. You're talking about 23?
Yeah.
It's the same.
so
It's about words.
yeah,
It's about
Nafa,
إن الذين يرمون المحصنات. It's about words. It's about
that's
accuse.
that's the thing I was saying in my comment. The bad woman
Yes.
and the bad man, the good woman and the good man. It's referring to the fact that the accusations, like the good bad and the good man and the good woman are free from these accusations. So it's defining what the good man and the good woman are. They are free from these accusations of immoral sexual behavior. And that's what
And
the verse.
don't they also need?
I wanted to comment
Yeah.
to the brother Rafa. If it was meant to be just Jama, what would be the point of it repeating like multiple times in the same ayah?
So if we look at, sorry,
Yes.
if we look at Corpus Quran, which is like totally independent of this translation that we're reading, it's also translated as this one translates as evil women for the evil men. Evil women are for the evil men, and the evil men are for evil women, and good women are for good men, and good men are for good women. Those are innocent of what they say, so they're innocent. Like they're not even if like because people can accuse anyone of anything, but God is saying like the good men and women are innocent, like they're not doing these things. So much shall I agree that it's a general verse about good men and good women, but then that part goes back to 23 that they're
Yes.
innocent of the accusations against
Yeah,
them of adultery.
Sister, exactly.
exactly.
That's
So
why at the end he said
the thing is, God
those
is
are
defining.
innocent.
Yeah, but then see, the thing is that we would be wondering like what is good, what is bad, what is it? God is defining it for us. He's saying that they're the ones who do not do these immoral sexual behavior. So he's actually defining what he's saying there. So it does
But
link back to the previous one, but it's about man and woman, like dude said.
I got to step away, but just really quick. I mean, it says when it says those, right? It's not talking about those words. It's in the context of the people that's being referenced that they're innocent.
Yes,
It says the later ones are innocent of such claims.
exactly. So those people are innocent of all these words,
No,
of
I
all
don't see
what
it that.
people said. No, when you start reading by like for example, I think 2024 or no, it's not 23. Yes, 23. You start reading for since 23, you go 24, 25, 26. You cannot, and I'm sorry, he's talking about words. When you start, there is no women, no men. He's talking about a human, yes, but what is mentioned is words, these good words, because he start here to to talk about accuse. So surely those who accuse says okay on the 23. After that he said their tongues, hands, and feet will testify against them. After that he said okay, so Allah will mention, and after that he said these words. He's talking about good words for good people, bad words for bad people, and at the end he said those are innocent of what they say. So absolutely for me this is how I understand it. There is no woman here or men. He's talking
Well, it
about
is.
what you say.
So if we take that interpretation, so it'd be the good. So I'm just going to start from the second, or let's start from top. The bad female words for the bad female men, bad female men for the bad, or sorry, female word male words for the bad female words. It's
No,
like it's
no,
just weird.
Mr.
And it says,
Dude.
and the good
I
female words for the good female male
I
words.
I understand. I understand. No, it's not like that. When it comes about Arabic, it's not like that because in Arabic we have female, which is not. How can I say this? If anyone here can
Feminine.
understand, can speak English much better than me. So in Arabic we have like جمع مؤنث. يعني عنا هناك الجمع المؤنث هناك العاقل وهناك الغير عاقل. So
How about
these
this? Why don't you do this? I mean, it would help maybe just do a word by word breakdown in the understanding that you have. Then we can assess it. I have to step away, but if you can DM me that, God willing, we can continue the conversation.
okay.
Inshallah.
Just real quick, I wanted to check in with Sister Misty. Misty, did you get your answer to your question? I can try to address them more. Basically, do I understand it? If you uphold God's laws, you would get guaranteed successful results. But of course, there are always situations that are anomalies that aren't really consistent with what what you're doing, basically, right? So let's say you're married for 20 years and then you learn about the Quran and the message. That's different, right? But
Can
if
I
you,
say something?
Yes, I want to say something in
yeah,
30
yeah, I
seconds.
just wanted to check in
The,
with the sister to see if did she
the,
kind of get her question answered or no?
Yeah,
In 30,
sort of.
in
Okay,
30
maybe let's
seconds,
let a few more people answer. Go ahead.
in 30 seconds, I want to say it. So we have some good people. They are married with bad women, and this is normal.
can
If
I
God is not
can I say something about what he says?
okay, okay, okay,
What the
brother.
man is referring to is called جمع مجازي and جمع حقيقي. جمع حقيقي is for actual masculine things like a boy, a man, a male dog, and so on. Whereas majazi can refer to inanimate objects, like the moon in Arabic is masculine, but it's not actually a male. It's just how the word is.
This is
That's
غير
called
العاقل.
majazi حقيقي. No, it's called majazi and حقيقي.
Yes, that's why I said غير العاقل. This is غير العاقل. He's not.
That was
This
just
is a plural of something. I don't know the word in English. That's my problem. That's my problem. If you
عاقل.
know if you know the word in English, so tell them this is جمع غير العاقل. Understand me? So this is a
yeah.
plural I don't know.
Animate and inanimate, living
Yeah.
thing and not living thing,
Yeah, I think
conscious thing and
inanimate object is what you mean.
That's right, an inanimate object. That's right. This is kind of similar in Spanish, where they have just masculine and feminine relations for different things. So, for example, but it's not like it's consistent as if something you would consider masculine is masculine. For example, dress, Spanish is masculine, right? It's just this. This is just the choice of the words. It's just how the language is. Do you understand? Anyway, going back to the point, my understanding is that for example, with marriage, right? If you are aware of the Quran and aware of the Quranic system of getting married and you do it properly, you pretty much guarantee your success, right? Are there exceptions or like maybe anomaly cases or like situations that are non-standard? Probably, yeah, but for the average situation, the whole concept is that if you uphold God's laws and you do things according to what God teaches us in the Quran, then you pretty much guarantee your success. But if you violate God's laws and you go around it and you do things that are not appropriate or not consistent with the rules and regulations that God is giving us, then it almost guarantees the failure. And so we are most successful if we do things correctly. If we do things correctly, then we can be more confident that we will get good results. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense to me, anyway.
Yeah, about the sister's question, I think we also have to like see how we define good and bad in modern situations, right? Because the way that Allah is defining those things might be different than what we define it as. So for us to say like this is a good person who married a bad person, it might not necessarily be that way. They might just have, some favorable traits and some, not so great traits, but does that mean that they're a bad person necessarily? So that's, I guess, another way to look at the verse.
I don't know where I read it from, but I think it's instilled in us, and we do know what's the difference between good and bad. It's just saying it, just putting it out there. I don't know where I read it from in the Quran, but yeah, we've got that heart, we've got that knowledge to know what the difference between good and bad. But about someone else, it's a pretty difficult one.
Topic brought up here, the Mr. Tamer brought a point. He talks about how there's people with qualifications. This is interesting. This is consistent with the verse in the Quran, chapter 9, verse 31, upholding the teachings of religious leaders instead of God's teachings. And the Quran study ends in 13 minutes. We can love to have it opened up to debate with so many people here that can witness this debate. Basically, he's saying, consistent with what this verse is saying, that we need to just obey what the scholars teach us. This verse says 931, they have set up their religious leaders and scholars as lords instead of God. You see? So the understanding is that, because he falls within a particular doctrine, he has to uphold the teachings of the doctrines within the given madhab or whatever scholar, whatever one he approves of. Because then it opens the doors. Well, he's saying you have to have the qualifications. Okay, who's the judge of those qualifications? Because clearly, if you're Sunni, you do not accept Shia qualifications, even if they've qualified themselves for 90 years. We have grand ayatollahs, which are basically devoted their entire life to studying the theology. But because you don't even accept their foundation, you will not accept their qualifications, and vice versa. So this is really a nonsense approach to just say, okay, I'm going to go around and find the people with the qualifications and then accept their understandings and turn off my brain. But that's what I think about that. Does anyone want to share their views?
Yeah, there's a verse in the Quran where Allah says, إِنَّمَا يَخْشَى اللَّهَ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ الْعُلَمَاء. So the ones who fear Allah are the ones who are the ulama. It doesn't mean that it's based off of qualification. So there might be somebody who studied for 50 years and because their heart is not pure, or they don't fear Allah in the correct manner, that they won't be the ulama, they won't be the ones who understand this book or interpret it correctly. So, I mean, I don't believe in adding all of these, caveats to being able to understand Allah's book or interpret it. I don't think
Yeah.
that everybody can necessarily, interpret it correctly. I think that there's things that help you, tools that help you, but it's not limited for a certain group of people based on how long that they've studied or how many qualifications they have.
You know what's sad is like we have a group of people here, like 40 people here, that are genuinely interested in studying the Quran, and this Sunni guy is actually getting upset. He's like mocking. He's like, "Why are you guys sitting here studying the Quran? You don't have knowledge." It's like this is God's word to the human race. Our job is to study it carefully and figure out what God is telling us and uphold the commandments. And he's basically saying, "Don't do that. Why are you guys studying the Quran?" And that's why Sunnis don't even have Quran study. This is the largest public Quran study on Discord right now that everyone's in right now. So congratulations for that. They're actually
Thank you, man.
opposed to having Quran studies.
So, Mr. Navid, before I leave, because I have to go. Just I want to say 2 words because to our Sunni friend, as I understand, so it's not about so it's not funny, first of all, and if the Prophet explain or interpret this Quran, no one will interpret it, but he did not. You know why he did it not? Because we can interpret it in many ways, in different ways, and he didn't did that. So if you just trust some scholar or I don't know all these people like for 100 years ago, I'm sorry because we have brain too. We can read. We have eyes, bro. We have eyes. We don't follow anyone. These are words of God for everybody on this planet. So we can understand and they're easy. We just need to look and to search. Not follow the interpretation of someone he already did like for 600 or 700 years ago. I'm sorry for this. So anyway, I need to go. Thank you very much for this conversation, guys. And I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here, Alpha. We loved you. Peace be upon you.
Peace be upon you.
Right.
So,
Can someone about the verse about studying the Quran carefully? It says, "Why did they not study the Quran carefully? Do they have locks on their minds?" It's 47:24. Let's load her up in VC1 dash chat.
yeah,
47:24. Here you go. Oops. I apologize.
yeah, I'll do it.
I got it. Study the Quran.
So,
Why do they not study the Quran carefully? Do they have locks on their minds? We have made the Quran easy to learn. Does any of you wish to learn? And so, what's interesting is now we are trying to study the Quran carefully, and we're just getting condemned for that because we're not upholding the Sunni interpretations or the scholars that one individual agrees with, who, by the way, he would disagree with every other scholar from a different madhab or different ideology within Islam. It's very humorous to see this, to be honest with you.
yeah, that's disappointing because for the last 20 years of my life, I was seeing all that, and it just made no sense. Everyone keeps picking a scholar. Everyone keeps following someone else, and
You know what I
yeah, that
also
made it
find?
contradictory.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right.
What I
Go
also
ahead.
find interesting, it's actually contradictive. It's inconsistent. This
All the way.
this way of thinking is inconsistent because on one hand, Jews do the exact same thing. They say like the you know the they're scholars, Jewish scholars, like religious scholars, leaders.
Yep.
They say that they are authoritative, and if someone questions that, they say they treat him as a or her as a disbeliever. It's very similar, but the reasoning is because they are religious scholars, so they think they find them authoritative. So it's the exact same thing. Now here we have Muslims condemning Jews for doing this, right?
When it's
And doing the exact same thing themselves. Isn't
that's
that
the way I
interesting?
see it. It's
That's very inconsistent way of thinking. It's very inconsistent. So what does that make a difference then? What is the
it's that
difference? I mean,
They're ignorant to their arrogance.
yeah.
They think they're safe, and I can only put this to it. I'm only assuming they all, and I've heard this for a long time. Muhammad's going to intercede for them, which I've read 100 times now. That no one can intercede on anyone
No, it's
without
also
God.
very important. It's also very important. Like, we're not disobeying Muhammad. I mean, we're following the
Yeah,
Quran he gave us, right? We're what we're doing is disobeying Bukhari because he compiled a couple of sayings which aren't really like, if you go into the hadith thing, it's a whole different topic. It's actually the same topic, but it's very similar. We're not disobeying Muhammad. We're obeying him because the
yeah,
book he gave us, that he got from God, the book he gave us tells us we need to uphold that book alone. So we are actually obeying him, and these people are disobeying him.
yeah. And Muhammad, like I told my son, sorry to cut in, I told my son, how do you think Muhammad was teaching everyone? Do you reckon he got on his hands and knees and prayed to himself and said, say salam to me and my family and say it to Ibrahim? Do you reckon he would have done that? It just doesn't make no sense. And this is what people are putting together.
And when we look at the Quran, Surah 56, verse 79 says, none can grasp it except the sincere. So that's the kind of key, that if we're sincere, we're going to be able to grasp it like somebody who's seeking the Quran or somebody who's a believer. And then we know that God is the teacher of the Quran. And in Surah 55, it talks about God being teacher of the Quran. And then in Surah 54, at least four times, it's repeated, we made the Quran easy to learn. Does any of you wish to learn? So somebody who's sincere, the Quran is easy and God will teach them, putting kind of all of that there.
That's my understanding too. And like if you seek, you shall find, and yeah, I mean, he'll show you the understanding when it's right for you and when you're ready for it. He'll unlock little understandings for you. Like you got to keep reading it and reading it and reading it. Things still come out, still learn every day. It's amazing.
Yes, mashallah.
What else is there? Nine.
Anyone have any questions or comments they want to share? There's an open discussion portion. I think the sister here had a comment. Let's see. Liza coming. Do you want to come up and share your thoughts that you shared in the text chat? Because not everyone's following along in the text channel, VC1 chat. Do you want to come up and share your thoughts with us regarding conciliation? Come on up, sister, and share your thoughts. Don't worry, everyone's friendly here. Please. You want me to read yours? Okay. All right, I'm reading this from Liza Cummings. She shared this. She says, regarding reconciliation, I think now that we have the knowledge that the good is for the good, submitters will have to reconcile on that grounds. For the case of submitter marrying a non-submitter, it would mean that the non-submitter will have to submit and uphold the Quran alone to be able to reconcile. If they are unable to do that, then God has created divorce as a way out. Did you want to expand on this, sister? Maybe you can help explain this better so we understand the point you're making. Okay. She's just typing. It would be so much easier if you just unmuted and spoke. I know you might be shy, but no one, it's okay. Yeah, anyone who wants to just speak, just come up and speak, no problem. I know it might be difficult the first time, but it's really not hard to just talk. You just unmute and you share your thoughts. That's it. All right. Who wants to speak now? Go ahead. It's open discussion.
I think what she is talking about is like how Muslim women are allowed to marry a non-Muslim man. So if like they somehow ended up marrying a non-Muslim man, then the the man should convert sooner or later. If not, then divorce is what's better for both of them.
So I don't know if just having non-belief is grounds for divorce, because in the Quran it talks about even if you have a prohibited marriage, meaning a category that was prohibited for you in marriage, it says don't break existing marriages, right? So I don't know. I don't think that just being, being married to them, I don't know if that alone is sufficient to divorce them. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But obviously,
Well,
you would never knowingly, marry a disbeliever. That's prohibited for the believers.
yeah, but that doesn't
We
change
also
the
have
fact that some people still do it.
people may do anything, but can you guys hear me now?
Perfectly.
Guys and gals. Okay,
Yes, we
praise
hear
God.
you.
Yeah, I agree that it's God allows divorce, but really discourages it and encourages reconciliation when possible. And so yeah, just because um the beliefs are not the same, it's not something that God says, okay, now you need to divorce them because of that. So, and we also have the examples of like Lot, who was married to um, a woman who, like, when his whole family was saved, she was doomed.
Yep.
And I think Noah as well. So they had disbelieving wives, and they didn't divorce them. So we have those precedents.
And Noah's son as well.
What was that? I didn't hear the last comment.
I just mentioned Noah's son as well. He said to swim to the top, jump on the craft, and he goes, "No, I'll get above this," and he died too. Something like that.
Oh, right, right.
Definitely. I want to echo what was said. Is I don't see any verse in the Quran saying that if you're married to a disbeliever, that alone is justification to break the marriage, because we have many examples, right? So the wife of Pharaoh, Lot's wife, was it also Noah's wife? These kinds of situations. But again, marrying an idol worshiper, um, is prohibited for the believers. Al-Bashar chapter 2, verse 221. Do not marry idol worshippers. It says, do not marry idolatresses unless they believe. A believing woman is better than an idolatress, even if you like her. Nor shall you give your daughters in marriage to idolatrous men unless they believe. A believing man is better than an idolater, even if you like her. These invite to hell, while God invites to paradise and forgiveness as he wills. He clarifies his revelations for the people. It makes sense if you be with a believer, um, you know, you want to be with someone that's going to help you in your salvation. Otherwise, this life is a waste of time, right? I have a fitting verse on this. It's true now, verse 24, important criterion. It says, proclaim if your parents, your children, your siblings, your spouses, your family, the money you have earned, a business you worry about, and the homes you cherish are more important, more beloved to you than God and his messenger and the striving in his cause, then just wait until God brings his judgment. God does not guide the wicked people. So we need to love striving in the cause of God more than we love anything else. This is very clearly in the plain text, 9:24. So if that's our focus, and we look at that in conjunction with 165, it says, yet the idols disown their idolizers. Yet some people set up idols to rival God and love them as if they are God. Those who believe love God the most. So if we love God the most, that is our sole focus in life and striving in his cause. And everything else is in accordance with this, not the other way around. Some people, their priority is other things, and then they make some time for God. But it should be the opposite. The sole focus is God, and everything else is just fits around this agenda, the God centric, God only agenda. Does that make sense? Does anyone want to comment on this, please?
You know, it's
you.
interesting. Tamer didn't even listen to these arguments. He's not even here anymore.
Oh, I wasn't
Assalamu
talking
alaikum.
about him. I wasn't
Yeah,
talking about that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
okay.
yeah. Peace be upon you. So when we're talking about marriage, and marriage is um a blessed institution and mercy from God, and I think it's very important to understand the concept of marriage in our religion. And Brother Navid described very well, like we shouldn't marry the idol worshippers because, as God tells us in the Quran, they point to hell while the believers point to, like redemption. At the end of the day, that's the most important thing for us as believers. But in today's society, like priorities are opposite. So like when you see like, like the how they butcher the marriage institution that is given by God, and they turn into playing games. Like you could have a partner, and you can have this non-committing situation where they live together, they sleep together, whatnot, and all these kind of like arrangement when they call it like, oh, this is my my significant other, and so on and so forth. But God reminds us, not only the criteria in the Quran that pertains to marriage, but also like to not break existing marriages. So God put the marriage in a very marriage sanctity in a very high position. So like for instance, in Surah 4:22, it says, "Do not marry the women. Do not marry the women who were previously married to your fathers." But says also, existing marriages are exempted and shall not be broken, for it is a gross offense and an abominable act. Also, we have another verse in 4:23. It says, "Prohibited for you in marriage are your mothers, your daughters, your sisters, and sister of your fathers, a sister of your mothers, the daughter of your brother," and so on and so forth. And then by the end of this verse, it says, "Also prohibited for you are the women who are married to your genetic sons. Also, you shall not be married to two sisters at the same time, but do not break up existing marriages. So God is forgiver, most merciful." We see here that even though these extreme circumstances where previous marriages are, like this in these positions, God tells us to not break existing marriages. So God sanctifies the institution of marriage, and He puts it to such a high position where our societies nowadays do the opposite of that. They lower the marriage institution to these like minute criteria, like they consider it like playing games. That's why you know, we are in these positions now in our society where marriage, you know, like we have broken homes, and
Yeah.
from that the society goes downhill from that, because there is no moral standards anymore. Like God is instituting these moral standards in within the family and elsewhere. So like the societies are, I think, should take marriage as God instituted it, sanctity. So when you make a commitment to marry someone, these criteria, the whole point of all these criteria that God has mentioned in the book, should apply, and take that as institution that God has established for the believers. That's all I want to say.
Um, yeah, so agree that, you know, we want to follow God's laws when we're getting married. And then the verse that I was referencing, just in case anybody wanted to know about the wife of Noah and Lot, that was Surah 66, verse 10, in case anyone's interested in that. I wanted to also add about the, I agree, you know, that it's a divine, marriage is a divine institution. And my understanding of, there's a couple of instances where God says these should not be broken. One is 22, as it was said. And 23, to me, it seems like, because it's in that sentence, it's like a dash in that sentence, regarding the two sisters. My understanding is it's in that case that, in that situation, that God is saying, do not break up existing marriages. This is my understanding at the time. May God forgive me and guide me if I'm mistaken. Because in that case of like the two sisters, it's not as serious as a problem in terms of like genetically, biologically, genetically, in terms of like the kids that, the offspring, versus those other categories. So that's kind of my understanding. So I just wanted to share that. Um, and then I just wanted to say I appreciated, you know, the brother that had shared earlier about, this goes a little back to we talked about 436, worshiping God alone, and that I just wanted to highlight like what he said, that it's important for us to be aware of inadvertently not setting up idols beside God, like, you know, making sure that we're not getting too preoccupied with work or other things. And that's something that I also I'm trying to be aware of and work on. And that I think it's a blessing to just be aware, ask God for help, and work on it, work on ourselves, so that we can make God our God. I appreciate especially all the all the personal sharing that people shared. And mashallah, it's been a great study. I wanted to say thank you, God, and thank you all. May God bless you all, and peace be upon you. I'll be leaving in the next couple of minutes, inshallah.
Peace be upon you, sister. Thank you for that. I just wanted to mention the 422, the verse that was shared. It says, "Do not marry." I'll shout James song. It says, "Do not marry the women who were previously married to your fathers. Existing marriages are exempted and shall not be broken." So this is another example. So it's saying
Right.
even if you are in a prohibited marriage, and so for the other verse, I'm not sure if it's for all of them, for all the different categories, but obviously for this one it is, and for the other one it is. So the concept that I'm learning is that even if you're in a prohibited marriage, because marriage is a divine and sacred institution, you shouldn't just break off an existing marriage, even if it's in a prohibited category.
Mashallah, I agree. I had also mentioned 422, but 423, I was just saying my understanding was because that part is like a dash. You know, also you should not be married to two sisters at the same time, and then it says dash, but do not break up existing marriages. It seems to me like in this verse in 23, it applies to that situation. I think my understanding is that, like, if it would have
Yeah,
applied to the whole thing, it would have been a separate sentence at the end of all of
that's
this.
how
But
I always
I
understood
could
it
be wrong.
also. That's how I
Praise
understood
God.
it also, but again, I feel like I can also be wrong on that. I'm not sure.
Yeah. May God increase our knowledge. Thanks.
Amen. Thank you.
May
All right.
God increase
Well,
your knowledge. Bless
yeah.
you.
So we're not binded by any formal Quran study at this point. It's just open discussion, so anyone can share whatever they like. But yeah, I hope you guys attend every day. I just wanted to ask everyone to come in for the daily discussions. Every day we have daily discussions, almost 24 hours a day. So it's really wonderful to have everyone join right here in VC1 and VC1 dash chat. Okay, so does anyone have any question regarding anything? And now we can get a little bit more into different topics and get into more details if anyone's interested. I think Sister Aisha asked a question. Sister Aisha, do you want to come up and ask your question again so everyone can hear it?
So I was just asking about what circumstances is a woman allowed to divorce her husband?
That's an interesting question. I would say that yeah, if a woman is in let's give it an example, right? So let's say a woman is in an abusive relationship and their husband is genuinely not interested in doing anything. He's not a believer. He doesn't want to uphold the verses. He's not interested in doing anything. Then is it fair to say? Does everyone agree that if they do a 4 month cooling off period, then it's just that's the like it basically like she does the 3 month interim after or the three menstruations after that, and then it's finished. I would say that's appropriate. What does everyone else think? That's the way I see it.
I believe that's appropriate.
Yeah, abuse is definitely not something to wait out. Some people like to interpret that as sabr, even though it's not. That's just putting yourself in danger.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, sister, where are you from? How did you find the server? Are you from Discord?
Um, I just got here a couple of days ago, and I found it on a Discord dashboard.
You mean the Discord? Yeah, Discord. So, do you have any questions for us? Do you want to learn anything, or are you wondering about something? Do you want to learn about the server and our beliefs? Are you enjoying your stay so far?
Yeah, I like it so far, but I gotta go. My mom's calling me.
All right. God bless you. Peace be upon you. Come back whenever you like. All right. Next person. With any questions, Brother Mosen? You see, we have a bunch of people here. I don't know if you have any questions about submission or things that you're wondering. Seems like this is your first kind of Quran study in a public space in this capacity. I understand. So, if you want to ask anything, there's a lot of talented, knowledgeable individuals that are available right now to address your questions.
No, I don't have any questions at the moment. I should have had a book full by now, but yeah, not at the moment.
Wonderful. All right. Okay. Any topics anyone wants to bring up or any issues we want to discuss right now? Anything we want to study more and learn about?
Yeah, there's one question. It's probably a bit left field. Now, what's the dress code for a man when he's praying?
I think this is my understanding. Other people can share their thoughts. I think dress code in general is for humans, not for God. That's my understanding. But I'm curious what other
That,
people think.
yeah, I'm not worried about what other people think, but yeah, like you know, I've always been told you have to have long pants up to your ankles. You got to cover up to your belly. But yeah, can you wear shorts and pray?
Yeah, personally, I don't see anything wrong with it, but that's my view.
Because I haven't seen anything in the Quran that says anything about a man's dress
No,
code.
no, no. Dress code is only for humans.
Yeah, and
Dress code is only
the
for other humans. We don't have any dress code that's for God, as far as I can tell. I guess the only exception to that would be going to the masjid, but even then, the whole point of a masjid is to meet other people that you're not going to see inside your bedroom or your house. So
yeah,
again, that's dealing with others in a public masjid. So I don't see any verses about just God.
cool.
There is a verse about congregational prayer, Juma, where it says dress nicely,
Yeah,
and when we refer to the messenger, right, to Rashad, he said like, do not wear like clothes that you would go to work, like in in general, just wear nicer clothes, like you're going to meet somebody important, right?
Make an
In that
effort,
case.
basically. Yeah.
So that's the only exception I see. Otherwise, it's modesty all over the Quran, right? It's mentioned. Like, I don't see any problem why if you're praying by yourself or with your family, wearing shorts or anything like to that nature, but it's comfortable, but it's not also revealing or anything,
So that's cool. Yeah. Because
Yeah,
where
more.
I work in like some days at 50 degrees, and do my wudu, put tracksuits on and t-shirt on, and that make it a little bit easier for me. I always thought there was a dress code.
Yeah. It's modesty. At the end of the day, God is not looking at your clothes, but He's looking what's in your heart. That's what matters for God,
Alhamdulillah.
I do
Just want
believe
to clarify.
we need. I do believe we need to reverence God in our privacy as well. I think this is also like one of those things. Like we need to reverence God during our prayers. And one of the things, reverence is deep respect. Like if you would go to like a president, you wouldn't go, like for example, naked, right? You would have
Of
deep
course not.
respect for the president. You'll dress up decently. However, having said that, I don't think it's wrong to pray with shorts, though. I don't see that as violating the reference, to be honest. But if you would be like completely naked, me
So let's
personally,
say you're at the beach, you're swimming suit, you're in a swimsuit, and then you're at the beach, and then you want to do your salat on the side, in
Yeah,
a dry area. Can you do that or no?
that's a good question.
yeah, I
No,
mean,
because this whole concept of reverence, I mean, I get it, but my whole understanding is that if you look at the Quran, dress code is consistently and exclusively used for humans only. There's
yeah, I have,
not even one instance of dress code for God.
you have no choice. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it that way at the beach. There's no prohibition
No.
on
I'm
that.
not talking about no choice. Let's say you can walk for 5 minutes, go back and get a shirt and put your shirt on, or you could just be in your swimming suit and just do it. I'm not talking about force.
I
Obviously, we
don't
all agree
I
if you're
don't
forced, you could do whatever.
I don't see necessarily
What
problem
about
with it. Like,
Hajj?
God, I mean, our bodies, the way it was created, is just like without clothes. It was naked in its essence, right? I
Yeah.
don't think that if you're like in the beach and just pray like that, it's gonna cause a problem. I don't honestly, because He created us naked. He didn't like, create the clothes with us. It's just that we created part of His system, right? And we should do it, right? But in front of Him, I don't think that you're in a beach that you necessarily have to go put on a shirt or something to pray. But again, it doesn't mean that if you're in your home, you have to take all your clothes off and just like pray naked. No,
No,
just
of
like
course not.
whatever the dress code is, however you are like normally in whatever
Yeah.
situation, I think that should be fine.
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
with our Thunder's comments.